In this lesson, we'll look at copying an object in Rhino 5. As with many things in Rhino 5, there are multiple ways to achieve a task, and whichever method you choose will depend on your particular modeling situation. The first method is the traditional copy and paste. We'll just go ahead and select this box, and we can either go up to Edit and select Copy, or you can see the keyboard shortcut Control-C, which is the one I'll choose. I'll choose Control-C, and you can see in the command line it says Copy to Clipboard. I can go ahead and do a Control-V to paste, or select Paste from the Edit menu. And now if I deselect the box and reselect it, you'll see Rhino is asking me which one of the two objects I'd like to choose. And that's because there's two objects that are mathematically overlapping right where I've clicked, and Rhino doesn't know which one I want to select. I'll just pick one of those, and I'll hit Delete. Now if I click again, you'll see it just selects the box, because that is the only piece of geometry in that particular location. I'll just go ahead and move this box out of the way, deselect it, and then I'll do another Control-V to paste the instance that we copied earlier. And you can see it paste that box directly where we had previously copied the part from. Let me just do a couple of undos. Now the second way to copy has changed a little bit in Rhino 5. In Rhino 4, if I wanted to drag and copy a part, I would drag it and hold down the Alt key and then let go of the mouse when I had the piece move to where I would like it go. This no longer works. Let me undo that. In Rhino 5, I drag the part, and as I'm dragging it, I just tap the Alt key, and you'll see the little plus sign appear. And then I can let go of the part when it reaches where I want it to move to. And you can see it's left a copy behind. I can do the same with this part. I'll just drag it over here and tap Alt. And I can drag this part here and tap Alt again. This time if I helicopter around, you see we have 4 instances of the same object. I'll just undo those to get back to one part. Now there are 2 versions of copying in the menu, and I'll show you the difference. I'll go ahead and select the part. And if you remember, we selected Edit, Copy before to actually make a copy of the part. If you go over to the Transform menu, however, you'll see another copy. If we select this one, you can see the command line is asking us for a point to copy from. So I'll go ahead and click End, and that becomes my reference point for any other copies I make. Now if I click, you can see I've made a copy there, and I can just kind of continue clicking and adding objects wherever I want them to go. I can use my object snap and snap to the middle of a part or to the end of a part. And I can also go back to my 4 views and use one of my other viewports to place parts while I'm working. And remember, when I'm finished with the command, I can either hit Enter, Spacebar, or right mouse click to apply the command. If I go back to the perspective window and zoom out just a little bit, you can see we've made a lot of copies now, placed all around, and they all use the endpoint for their locations. Let me go ahead and just drag some boxes and delete the excess parts we have here. And we're left back with the single part that we originally started with. Now there are several other copy commands you use quite frequently in Rhino. The next of these is called the mirror command. You just go ahead and select this model. And for this, I'll go out to my top viewport. I'll go to Transform, and I'll select Mirror. I have my end snap on, so I can just snap to the endpoint, and I'll just drag a bar up. And essentially this line I'm dragging is if I were drawing a mirror right here, and anything on the right side is going to be mirrored over to the left side. So now you can see I have 2 boxes. I can select both of those, apply the mirror command again. This time I'll select this endpoint, and I'll drag this way. And now you can see I have 4 boxes selected. So it's going to mirror everything I've selected across the mirror line or across the line of symmetry that I input. Let me just undo that. Now you don't have to snap to a part on the object to apply the mirror command. Let me select the object. I'll hit spacebar to apply the mirror command again. And you can see my command line is asking for the start of the mirror plane. This time I'll click out here in space, and I'll drag. Now you can see I've created 2 parts, a little further apart this time. I'll undo that. You can also use a line as your reference for your mirror and snap to that. So if I select this part and go to the mirror icon, and this time snap to the endpoint of this line, my parts now have symmetry across this line. This can be very useful for a lot of your designs. A lot of times you'll find you're building things that are symmetrical, and this allows you to just build either the right, left, or top or bottom side of a part, and then simply mirror it over when all the details have been added, saving you a lot of time. Let me go ahead and delete these parts. Now the next type of copying we'll look at is called a polar array, and this is when you array your parts in a circle around a particular center point. So I'll go ahead and select this part, and the array command can be found under the transform menu, and it's this icon right here. So now it's asking for the center of polar array, and I can use my smart track here to find a part that's in the center of this box. I'll go ahead and switch smart track on. So I get a line coming from the midpoint of that box and just click. You can see instantly on the command line, it's asking me for a number of items, and this will be the number of items that it rotates around this center point. In this case, I'll just go ahead and type 6 and hit enter. It's also asking for the angle to fill or the first reference point. I want this to fill just a simple 360-degree angle, and you can see that's already within these brackets. So I can just go ahead and hit enter. If I zoom out a little, you can see all 6 parts, and the command line is asking me enter to accept, or I can go ahead and click on items equals 6 and change that number, let's say to an 8. Now I've added 8 items to the scene, and again, you can see the command line is asking me to press enter to accept, or I can go ahead and click items or fill angle to change either of those. I'll just go ahead and hit enter. Now it's applied the command, and you can see if I enlarge the perspective viewport and zoom around, there are in fact 8 copies of this box rotated around a center point. Let me go ahead and undo that, and now we're left back with the original box again. The final kind of copy that we're going to look at is called a rectangular array. You can find that on the transform toolbar next to polar array, and this is called rectangular array. Or you can go to the transform menu and select array rectangular. And you can see my command line is asking me to select an object to array. I'll press enter to apply the command, and it's asking me for the number in the X direction. I'll type a 4 in this case. Number in the Y direction, I'll leave that as a 3, and the number in the Z direction, I'll just leave that as a 1 for now. And you can see it's now asking for unit or X spacing. And in this particular case, I'll just click down in this corner to give it an origin point. As soon as I've done that, I can start dragging my cursor. And when I find something I like, I can just click, and you can see it's added 4 boxes in the X direction, 3 in the Y direction, and we have 1 set of boxes in the Z direction or the vertical direction. Let me just undo that, select and apply the command again. So I'll go ahead and apply 4 in the X direction, 3 in the Y direction, and we'll enter 2 for the Z direction. I will click to give the boxes an origin point, and then I can drag out just as I did before for the X and Y direction, and then click, and now I can drag to apply a Z direction. So there you go. Now we have 4 in the X direction, 3 in the Y direction, and 2 as we entered in the Z direction. Go ahead and undo that. Let's go ahead and apply that command again. This time we'll type in numbers instead of just dragging. So let me select the part, select rectangular array, number in the X direction, I'll change that to 5, number in the Y direction, let me change that to 6, and Z direction, we'll leave that at 1. So for unit, cell, or X spacing, this time I'll type a 30 for the X spacing. For the Y spacing, I'll type a 60, and you can see the result. We now have 5 of the boxes in the X direction, and we have 6 of the boxes in the Y direction. And that concludes our look at copying in Rhino 5.